Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Let's go ahead and take a look at the markets tonight. Welcome everyone as you guys start to join. So yeah, Ethereum's doing well. It's at 462 or so. I'm just going to post this in a couple different places, and then we'll go ahead and jump into the charts. All right, let's go ahead and jump in. Let me maximize this. All right, let me just look at the comments really quick. Night's going pretty well. Just finished the link video. Yeah, it's nice to see link moving. Ethereum's moving a little bit. Yeah, the daily XRP question coming in. So business as usual, I suppose. So Bitcoin hasn't really moved a whole lot in the last couple of days, which is good, right? I mean, this is fine. It's fine for it to just chill in this area. In fact, it'd be great, right, if we could start going sideways. This is, moving sideways for a while during a bull market is a good thing, as opposed to just having say like a blow off top in the short term, right? Blow off tops are nice, but they can definitely change the sentiment for quite a while in the market. So these shorter term moves that kind of go up and correct back down, in my opinion, are a lot better, because then at least you're kind of establishing these new levels. You're having these like reaccumulation phases on the way up. And while I thought there was a good chance we were going to have a reaccumulation phase in this region, we have not done that. We essentially just blasted right past 12K, 13K, 14K. We're all the way up at 15 and a half. 15.4K or so, but that's okay. Now the 20-week moving average is, of course, one of the primary things that we follow in terms of Bitcoin being in a bull market and wanting it to hold as support. Of course, right? We want the 20-week to hold as support. As we've said many times, this is our bull market support line. Like, hold the line, right? This is where we would want to hold. By the way, give the video a thumbs up if you guys are liking the content. At least that'll help the algorithm. But this move here, and we talked about this, right, a lot. I mean, I talked about it so much that I think you guys are frankly getting tired of it. But we said always be ready for a visit to the 20-week moving average. And while this was a scary time to some degree for a lot of people, we said during this time that as long as we hold this on the weekly time frame, the sentiment in the market can change on a dime, right? It can change on a dime. And that's what we saw. The sentiment was pretty good up here. We came down to the 20-week, and then it was, okay, we're going to go fill the gap. We're going to go back to 6K, whatever. We're going to go to 3,500. And we said, no. This is our test. And we knew our test was coming. It was only a matter of time. And just like this was only a matter of time, we know that it's only a matter of time before we correct to the 20-week again. And we don't know when it's going to happen. If you take a look at the last time we broke above the 20-week, and we take, say, like a measured move from here over, we didn't test it once we got above the 20-week for about 18 weeks. So it was quite a long period of time before we actually tested it. If we were to go another 18 weeks, just to give you, I don't think it's going to be exactly 18 weeks, but just to give you an idea of how long that would be compared to the last time, that would put us at testing the 20-week again in February of 2021. So just a few months from now, it would theoretically put us at testing the 20-week again. Now, one of the things to note, of course, is that the 20-week moving average is moving up rather quickly. And because of this, we just have to keep an eye on it, because the target for the bull market support is moving. The 20-week moving average, historically speaking, is where the bulls will come to hold the line when the friendly neighborhood bears come out and take Bitcoin back down. So currently, that price corresponds to approximately, and this will vary depending on what exchange you're looking at, but it corresponds to approximately $11,455. So we have a ways to go before we would even remotely get there. However, recognize that the 20-week moving average is moving up very quickly at this point. I mean, you can see back in, let's just kind of look at some different milestones. So the very beginning of September, the 20-week moving average was at around 10,000. It was actually slightly less than 10,000, maybe around 98 to 9,900. Okay, that was the beginning of September. Then let's look at the beginning of October. At this point, it was at 10.3K. So over that month, it only increased by a few $100 because we came back down and we're just simply testing it. We were not printing these super bullish candles anymore. Then we go to the beginning of November and say, oh wow, the 20-week moving average has increased $700 or $800 since the beginning of last month. And so now the 20-week moving average, at least in the first week of November, was around $11,000. And then just 1 week later, it's at $11,004. Okay, so this 20-week moving average is going to be increasing rather quickly. And this is what we need to focus on, because if this continues to go up, let's say at around $400 a week, I mean, this would be contingent on this continuing to move up. But if it did, then in 3 weeks, the 20-week moving average would be $1,200 higher. Current price is $11,454, so another $1,000 would put it at 12.5. So we're talking potentially 12.5K in say 3 weeks. Okay, so at the beginning of December, the 20-week moving average could theoretically be 12.5 thousand. And this would be significant because it means that we're moving that target, right? That target that we are needing to hold, and in my opinion, of course, which I use the data to try to interpret, the 20-week moving average we need to hold, this would correspond to 11.4 today, but in, say, 3 weeks, this could be 12.5K. So we just need to recognize that this will increase quickly. And if we go back, let's just quickly go back to the last market cycle to see kind of how the price had increased every test, okay? So if we take a measured move from our very first test to when we left it, the 20-week, the 20-week moving average had moved up around 23% during that test, okay? And it took around 19 weeks. But what's interesting is once we left the test in May of 2016, the next time we hit the 20-week moving average was 10 weeks later at a price 28% higher. So this price down here was around 448. The next time we tested it, we were at 552, which was approximately a 28% increase. Now let's continue on and look how the last market cycle fared. So the next time we left the 20-week, the price was at 638. When we tested it again, it was right here, approximately 77 days later, or 11 weeks, and we had gone up 21%. And then here's another test where we, from this price testing the 20-week, the next time we came down to test it again, the price again was approximately 25% higher, and about 63 days later, or 9 weeks. So we had 10 weeks, 11 weeks, and then 9 weeks. And then the next time we left the 20-week moving average, the price increased a lot more the next time we tested it. It increased by 87% over 13 weeks. Okay, so you can see how as we get later into the cycle, the prices between tests of the 20-week go up rather quickly because the price of Bitcoin starts moving rather quickly. So let's take it from here. How did the price correspond to here? So in this position, at this point in the market cycle, Bitcoin increased 52% from this test of the 20-week to the next test, and then the final one, when we ended up breaking the 20-week, well, we can see it tested it here and actually did bounce up in the short term. So this one took place. It was a 217% move over the course of 18 weeks. So you can see how these time periods increased as we got later into the cycle. So the first three, approximately speaking, were 10 weeks between 11 weeks and 9 weeks. So approximately 10 weeks between each test of the 20-week moving average. So approximately 2.5 months or so, maybe a little bit less than 2.5 months, since there's less than 4 weeks in a month, for most months anyways. And then as we got later into the cycle, there were times where it increased up to 13 weeks. This one was actually rather short, and then we had the final one at 18 weeks. So if we were to propagate this to the current time, what might we expect if we were to see something similar? Okay, so we're just going to look at these first three tests because I think it's more likely, whether you think we're going to Bitcoin next year or whether you think we're going to 100K next year, or if you think it's going to happen in, say, a few more years, then I think either way we would agree that in terms of testing the 20-week moving average, we're fairly early on in the cycle. So let's just take a look at these three and say, let's suppose that the price increases 25% over the course of 10 weeks from when we left the 20-week moving average. So that's all we're going to do. We're just going to take an approximation here. And of course, the one thing I can basically guarantee you of is that this will not identically happen, but I just want people to get an idea of what happened last market cycle so you can at least be ready for if we see a repeat. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go back to October 5th. You can see we're already 5 weeks out. Now, 10 weeks out would put us in mid-December, okay? And 25% up, which is what we did last cycle, would put us at a price of $13,000, okay? So we're talking about maybe coming and testing the 20-week moving average, and I'll probably make a dedicated video on this, but I just wanted to cover it in a live stream so that I could interact with you guys and answer questions and whatnot. But this would put us at a 25% move, just like the last market cycle, and maybe testing the 20-week at 13,000. So, this would look, and we already know that the 20-week moving average is moving up by maybe $300 to $400 per week. Okay, $300 to $400 per week. We're already 5 weeks in, so another 5 weeks at moving up approximately, let's say $300 per week. Then we're talking about another $1,500. The current price, or the current 20-week moving average, is at 11.4, 11.5. So another 15K. Guess where it would put us? It would put us at 13K. So with that in mind, if we were to see a repeat of the prior cycle in any stretch of the imagination, then we might expect to see the 20-week, slowly move up over the course of the next few weeks, something like this. And then maybe from here, we would test the 20-week. And again, I'm not saying this will happen by any means, right? I mean, each market cycle has their own differences, right? I mean, this market cycle arguably had 2 capitulations as opposed to just 1 like the last market cycle. But just to give you an idea, if we were to see a repeat of, say, the last market cycle, where we had these 25% increases in the 20-week moving average between tests over the time period of approximately 10 weeks. So in that scenario, over approximately 10 weeks, and we were to go from the last test of the 20-week, which you could even, I took it here, you could argue that it was even further back because we didn't really touch it here. But let's just say, for all intents and purposes, that's where I was, and we go out 10 weeks or so, then it might put us at 25% above our last test, right around $13,000. So that could be, I'm just saying this is one possible path. And we could go back down to that and then bounce up. We could go up and then come back down, right? I don't really know, but I just want people to get an idea of what could theoretically happen if the last market cycle rhymes with this one in any stretch of the imagination in terms of its testing of the 20-week moving average. So that's the key thing that I want people to take from this discussion on Bitcoin is that, okay, we recognize, and actually if we take a look here, when we first broke through the 20-week was right here, and it actually took a long time to test it, but it took 18 weeks, but you can see that it increased about 25% between when we first broke it and when we tested it, which is on par with the other times, except for the fact that it was longer. But I think it's okay if things are longer, and even in this situation, if it's longer, it's not a bad thing, right? This is not necessarily a bad thing. I just want to give people an idea of what could theoretically happen if we were to see a repeat of the last cycle. And it might mean, like coming down and testing the 20-week, and then continuing on our merry way. Or Bitcoin could say, you know what, to hell with it. We're gonna just carve our own path this cycle and do something completely different, right? I mean, maybe Bitcoin rallies for a while and then comes and tests the 20-week way over here next summer. Maybe Bitcoin fakes everyone out and doesn't hold the 20-week at this point during the market cycle, right? I mean, that's always a possibility that people don't necessarily want to consider, but we know there's a chance, right? There's no guarantee. There's no free lunch here. There's a chance that we come to the 20-week and fall through it and maybe come back down, right? I mean, there's no guarantee that we're going to hold the 20-week yet at this point in the cycle. Remember, if lengthening cycles are true, which I know a lot of you guys would dispute, and that's fine, but if lengthening cycles are true, then a break below the 20-week would not be that big of a deal. It'd be like, okay, well, we're just kind of kicking the can down the road a little bit. Nothing too major. I said when we broke through the 20-week over here and we came down and tested it, when we came down and tested it, I said in this region, I think we're either going to hold it this time or we're going to hold it next time. And so far, we've done a pretty good job of holding it this time. Because, I mean, at some point, in order for Bitcoin to really, create that new paradigm shift in the price of Bitcoin, we need to start moving up. We need to hold the 20-week moving average. The bulls need to come to the party, hold the line, and we need to keep moving up. Otherwise, otherwise we're just, we're just playing in the sandbox, right, and moving sideways and stuff. And I don't think that Bitcoin's just going to remain range bound between 6,000 to 15,000 for the next 3 years or anything like that. So, but that's just to give you an idea of what we might expect over the next few weeks if we were to see a repetition of prior cycles. And again, it's not that big of a deal, right? I mean, if we were to drop to 13K, even from this level, if we were to drop to 13K, it's just a 15% drop, right? I mean, 15% drops are going to be par for the course for Bitcoin, and we recognize this. And this is just one of those risks that we take, right? It's just a risk we take. Now, if it takes longer, if Bitcoin say does not come back down immediately, or let's say it goes up in the near term and then comes back down, but instead, if it starts, which is what a lot of us want to happen, but again, we don't always get what we want, especially you, moving sideways, right? If it moves sideways. Now, if it moves sideways, this would be great, right? This would be great for altcoins because this would give altcoins, as we've said, right? It would give altcoins the catalyst they need to really start breaking upward. And you can kind of feel it to some degree, right? There's a lot of coins that are sorry, let me just check out the comments here. Let me just make sure we're not having any trolls over here in the comments. All right, so in the event that we do move sideways in this regime, then this would be great for altcoins. And you can, looking at coins like Chainlink and seeing that it feels like, we don't trade based on what we feel like, of course. We stick to more data science approaches, a more pragmatic approach. But I think a lot of these coins could break out if Bitcoin can hold this level, and Ethereum could as well. And we've already started to see that with Ethereum. I mean, it's back to 460. I don't think a lot of people realize this because we've kind of gotten accustomed. To some degree, we've gotten spoiled recently. But if you take a measured move from November 4th, which by the way is only 6 days ago, okay, a lot can change in crypto in 6 days. Ethereum is up 22%, okay, in 6 days. I will remind you that the price of Ethereum 6 days ago reached $378. 7 days ago, it was at $370. So we're like $90 higher than literally where we were a week ago. And I think a lot of people fail to realize that because to some degree we've been rather spoiled because of this move. You know, this recent move, a 70% move, a 100% move to the top, right? We've been spoiled. And so as you get later on in the market cycle, you'll find yourself probably not appreciating these moves quite as much because you kind of just say, okay, well, that's just business as usual, par for the course. And you're more so wanting these major breakouts of like several $100s. I mean, obviously measured by percentage, but I mean, just to give you an idea, I mean, Ethereum has moved up almost $100 in the last week, which is considerable considering it's only $460. And of course, we can't talk about Ethereum without talking about the Ethereum-bitcoin ratio. This is a key. This is probably the most important crypto pair, Ethereum-bitcoin. And the reason we talk about this is, and if you're new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe and give the video a thumbs up. Help me get to 50,000 subscribers. I think I just hit 46,000 a few minutes ago. So if you want to help me get to 50, I would appreciate it. But if we take a look at this chart, it shows this long momentum shift in the market, right? So Ethereum was trending down against Bitcoin over 2 years, okay? And then we made a ton of videos in this region, and then all through here, talking about how this is the accumulation phase of, I mean, actually, we made the accumulation phase of a lifetime video over here before this breakout, but we talked about it back here too, and we said that Ethereum Bitcoin is significantly undervalued. Sorry, I'm just checking the chat. All right, so now, you know, we talked about this momentum shift in the market. I drew these trend lines back in the first quarter of the year. You can see that for the most part, Ethereum, Bitcoin were within these trend lines. They did leave it, just to be completely honest, right? They left it in May, and they also left it in November now. But again, these trend lines are at the end of the day, they're just imaginary lines, but they give us a general guide as to what's going on with the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio. Now, if we take a look, and this is what I want to remind you guys of. Okay, this is what I want to remind you guys of. Now, if you go back, and the reason why we're talking about this so much is because this could be the 6th year in a row of this happening, right? It could be the 6th year in a row. And we're going to talk about it every step of the way. And the general idea, of course, being that Ethereum Bitcoin trends down in the last part of the year, typically like the fourth quarter, maybe a little bit earlier than the fourth quarter. It tends to trend down in the fourth quarter of the year, right? Here is another trend down. But the nice thing, as we pointed out many times, is that it tends to pump against Bitcoin in the first quarter of the year. Okay, we've had 1,800% moves, 600% moves, 300% moves. Here was what I missed, but it was about a 50% move, and you can see it trended down in the fourth quarter. We identified this trend last year and said, all right, accumulation phase of a lifetime for Ethereum against Bitcoin, and in fact, it moved up 60% over the first quarter of the year. Now, in the same manner, we continue week over week, more or less, to see a general downtrend in the Ethereum-Bitcoin ratio in the fourth quarter of the year, which is what we've seen 5 years in a row. We've seen, this would be our 6th year of seeing the same pattern. And because of this, you know, it's just something that you want to consider. And one of the things we've mentioned many times is the idea that you should not put all your eggs in the basket of Q1 is the time to convert Bitcoin to Ethereum, right? I can assure you that is not what I'm doing. I am slowly and consistently accumulating Ethereum all the way down because we recognize, right? We're smart enough here to recognize that we don't know where the bottom is, right? We're smart enough to know that there's a lot of things we don't know, and one of those things is we don't know where the bottom is. And in fact, as we said before, it's not always December that gives you the best buying opportunity of Ethereum against Bitcoin, right? This in 2019, it was actually in September. It's not always in December that you get the best buying opportunity. Here was one that actually happened at the very beginning of December. So again, as we said, it's not always December that gives you the best buying opportunity, but historically speaking, a December purchase of Ethereum with Bitcoin has tended to give a decent 90-day ROI. Again, it does not mean it will be the bottom. For all we know, this was the bottom, right? That could have been a wick down to the bottom, and maybe we're going to start trending up. And even if we do start trending up, and we're here in December, we could still recognize, you know what? There still might be a lot of juice in this, right? And we might be able to continue on up. So I just want to warn people, for like the 20th time, we've identified this pattern many times, but it doesn't mean that you should put all your eggs in the basket of it has to move in January or in February or in March, or necessarily that has to be the lowest price. Again, this could have been the lowest price right here at a valuation of 0.0265, which was pretty low. I mean, that was a pretty strong wick down. So I would encourage people, it's not financial advice, right? Of course, this is not financial advice, but I would encourage people to not think of things in terms of absolutes, right? Don't think of like the idea that you have to time the top or you have to time the bottom. Think of it in terms of these momentum shifts in your portfolio, right? Do you want to focus on accumulating Ethereum, or do you want to focus on accumulating another coin, right? And we use these patterns to identify which coin it seems has the most attractive risk-adjusted returns. And of course, we talk about that on the premium list a lot in terms of the risk values. So again, I think it's playing out nicely. It could be that this is going to be our local bottom. There's a decent possibility of that. I mean, we're not that far from December, right? I mean, we're basically a stone throw away from December at this point. I mean, we're going to have a few more candles in here, whether they trend up or trend down. I still think it's looking like the same opportunity might arise. The only way the opportunity might not arise is if the Ethereum, or I don't want to say the only way, but one of the main ways that the Ethereum Bitcoin opportunity of, say, like a good 90-day ROI starting from in the first quarter of the year, had you bought Ethereum with Bitcoin in December, would be if in the short term Ethereum pumps against Bitcoin. Like, I mean, imagine this happens. And if something like that were to happen, then I'm not going to come in here halfway through December, and if we see the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio at like 0.045 and say, oh, like it's a theoretical goodbye of Ethereum with Bitcoin, when we likely know that's not true. It doesn't mean that it couldn't continue to pump in the first quarter. It just means that it's a lot riskier of a play than what we've seen in the past. Okay. And right now, it seems like the risk on this would still be quite low. We recognize that if Bitcoin volatility stays high, if Bitcoin were to continue moving on up to, say, 16K, 17K, the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio would bleed. And in this situation, it could set up a nice December buy of Ethereum with Bitcoin. If Bitcoin goes back down to the 20-week moving average, right, which is, again, one of the things we were talking about earlier, was looking at the last market cycle and realizing that the first three moves here between tests of the 20-week were approximately 10 weeks apart, and in between them, the price of the 20-week moving average at the test increased by approximately 25%. So if we were to see a similar type thing here, as measured from the last test, it would put us at a $13,000 Bitcoin at the 20-week moving average, halfway through December. And if this were to happen, okay, now if this were to happen, again, we do not claim to know what's going to happen. My philosophy is that no one really knows what's going to happen in the short term. What's more important, of course, is how you react to these movements. So if you see this happen, if you see Bitcoin go back and test the 20-week, like something like this, okay, and then hold it and then continue on, right? If you see something like that, then it could set another decent buy of Ethereum against Bitcoin, because in that situation, the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio is probably not going to recover in the short term. Okay, it probably won't recover if Bitcoin volatility stays high. What we want to see here is, again, we want to see Bitcoin go sideways for Ethereum to start making a move, and we simply just don't know when that will occur. Let me check the chat and see everything's okay. I think everyone's doing okay. Again, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel and give the video a thumbs up. Okay, please subscribe, thumbs up to the video, and help me with the YouTube algorithm stuff. Now let's take a quick look at Link. I mean, we can't not have a live stream here and not at least pull up Link. So the price right now is at 13.15, and again, it's hugging this, right? It's hugging this, like, this 20-week moving average. One of the things I've noticed with this is, I mean, it does dip below it sometimes, but not too significantly. But what's more important, as we showed on the video earlier, is looking at, say, like the Link Ether valuation. And this is why we call it king of the altcoins. There aren't many coins that continuously move up against Ethereum over the last 2 years, or over the last, say, like 2.5 years. And you can see that this bull market band for the Link Ethereum valuation tends to be pretty good as well, right? I mean, we kind of hold this level time and time again, and you can see that Link is right against it, right? I mean, Link is right against that same level. Here is a similar test, right? You can see red goes above green here. So green kind of dips down, and then when the green line dips down, the price dips down to the green line and then recovers. And then maybe there's a similar story here, right? So red goes above green right here, and then the price, as you can see, is dipping down to the green line. Which the difference, right, is the red line is the 20-week SMA, and the green line is the 21-week EMA. So those would be the difference between those two. So it's just something to consider that, you know, we've seen this before. Link has done really well against Ethereum. It's also done really well against Bitcoin. And you can see a very similar pattern against Bitcoin. How many coins have a trend that resemble this? There's not very many that can say that they've been increasing against Bitcoin basically exponentially over the last 2.5 years. And yes, we've dipped below this bull market band, but only slightly, right? I mean, 20% below it, not too bad, and it was very short-lived. Here was another 20% below. Here was a 5% below. This one's not worth measuring. Currently, we reached around 23% below. At the current time, we're about 5% below. So in terms of the Link Bitcoin valuation, I would say we're, you know, and I've said this before, I would say we're very much in reaccumulation mode. I don't know how long it'll last. If Bitcoin decides to rally on up higher, then this will probably bleed more, right? I mean, there's a first time for everything, right? But if Ethereum or if Bitcoin remains humdrum at 15K or even 14K or something, we might expect to see a short-term trend reversal. But again, I don't make any claims to know what's going to happen in the short term. We just try to react to this and recognize, okay, it seems like historically speaking, this is accumulation of Link against Bitcoin, right? Time and time again. We've seen this many times. And we'll see if it happens again, right? I mean, it's possible it continues to dip below. We'll see if the same pattern holds. Now, I think with that said, we can start to take some questions. Remember, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel and give the video a thumbs up if you guys like the content. Remember, I do not run any paid promotions on this channel. I also do not have AdSense enabled. You don't have to watch ads. If you do want to support the channel and you guys want access to more premium content, I will just remind you that you can check that out at intothe.cryptoverse.com. You get access to weekly premium reports, weekly premium videos, a risk dashboard, which is what I use to trade, a Telegram alerts channel, Telegram chat room, and also some of these indicators. So I know there's been a lot of requests for some of these indicators that I use. So now that is also a perk of the premium list. And you can also pay with crypto if you scroll down for 12 months and get like a 15% discount. So check that out. I'll also quickly remind you before we jump into questions that we also have a Telegram channel that has almost 7,500 people. So if you want a community that you guys can come chat in, you can check out that link, which will take you to that Telegram community. I try to moderate it as best I can. We also have like 7 or 8 other moderators in there. It does get noisy from time to time, but we're hoping to have a chat room that people can, retreat to when there's just mania in the market, to have a more level-headed discussion rather than like a moon boy discussion, right? We want to be pragmatic and systematic, not overly fanatic, right? I mean, that's the general idea of the Telegram channel. So with all that said, let's see if we have any questions, and I'll try to get through as many as I can. Remember, if you ask a question and I don't answer it, I'm not ignoring you. It's just that there's a lot of questions to get through, and I just simply don't have time to answer all of them. If you ask me my opinion on some obscure altcoin, maybe I would ignore you, because as I've said before, we don't have time to go through every obscure altcoin. We want to primarily look at the major coins, and mostly that's Bitcoin, Ethereum, Link, and ADA on this channel. I haven't actually looked at ADA in this live stream, and also Polkadot, right? But I mean, Polkadot is so relatively new that we don't have a ton of data on it, and because this is a data-driven channel, I just don't think there's a huge reason to to look at exactly what it's doing in terms of trying to swing trade or anything like that, because we don't have enough data. So let's jump into questions. Someone said, are you going to release the Ethereum log curve indicator? Actually, I just did. So if you're on the premium list and you're wanting access to this one, I just made it invite only, and someone is going through and giving people access. I think he said he was going to try to get through 400 people tonight. So you might, if you're lucky, maybe you'll be one of the 400 people that get access to this one tonight. If you don't get access to it tonight, you'll get access to it hopefully in the next couple days. Okay, we'll talk about Tezos just because I'm feeling a little bit generous tonight. But again, I want to warn you why we don't typically talk about these coins. Okay, and you look at its valuation against Ethereum. I like Tezos too, but you look at its valuation against Ethereum, and generally speaking, this is how a lot of altcoins look against Ethereum when Bitcoin volatility is high. They don't look good. Okay, we need to remove this regression band because it does not apply to this one. Okay, look at this, right? I mean, this is an ugly chart. Let's not pretend like it's not, right? This is an ugly chart. You take a measured move of Tezos from April to now, and it's down 68% against Ethereum, right? And I mean, this is why we always say it's not just about what you think the ROI will be. It's about your risk-adjusted returns, right? It's all fun and games when you're watching it go up, but you have to recognize that it can also come right back down, against the asset that it was going up against. So it's just something to consider. I really don't know where the bottom is. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of drawing trend lines because you can easily like manipulate them to be exactly what you want to be, right? I mean, I really don't know if it's going to look something like this, if it's going to continue to drop further, right? I don't really know. But this trend here, you'll see over a lot of altcoins over the last few months. Let's take a look at VeChain. We're going to quickly go through a few here so you guys can, don't take my word for it, right? So VeChain's another one. It's been trending down against Ethereum. Look at this, 66% over the last 17 weeks. Again, this is why we talk about you don't want to have too much exposure to 1,000 different altcoins because a lot of them behave the same way against Ethereum. I mean, if you guys don't believe me further, let's take a look at one of my favorite ones, ADA. Look at this one. It's also been trending down for the last, 17 weeks against Ethereum, and it's down about 56% against Ethereum. Okay, this is another one. Let's take a look at Atom. I saw that one mentioned. What do you see here again? Okay, it's been trending down about 52% down against Ethereum over the last 13 weeks. So when I say, we talk primarily about 4 coins, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Link, and ADA. it's not that there aren't other coins out there. It's just that I like to focus on certain trends against other trends, right? So we have Bitcoin because it's the index of the market. For me, Ethereum is the index of the altcoin market. If you're holding altcoins, they sure as hell better be able to beat the returns Ethereum is giving you, because if they're not, then why the hell are you holding these altcoins? Now, Link is a special altcoin. It's a special case. It's my opinion. It's king of the altcoins. It moves up against Bitcoin systematically. It moves up against Ethereum systematically. It's completely different. That gives us, these key relationships between Bitcoin and Ethereum, Bitcoin and Link and Ethereum. These three, like the triangle, right? These three key relationships. But it's important, in my opinion, to have one more type of coin, at least. And it's an altcoin that moves systematically against Ethereum. Okay, let me show you what I mean. Now, we showed a few of them, right? Well, we'll first start with ADA. We'll start with ADA. And then we'll go back to VeChain as well, because I think that's another good one to look at. So if we look at the ADA Ethereum chart, this is that fourth coin. It's not that, I think I'm more bullish on Ethereum and Link than I am with ADA. But one of the nice things about ADA is it bleeds against Ethereum, but the peaks of ADA against Ether tend to be the same. Okay? But again, over the macro scale, this one, it seems to bleed. The nice thing, though, is the peaks tend to be the same. So this is a move. This is a type of relationship between ADA and Ethereum that we can try to take advantage of. And it's not just ADA. There's a lot of other coins, too. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Link, I think, should be the main three. Not that it's financial advice. This is my opinion based on data, which I think is important. Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Link. And then A for ADA. If you want that to be A for altcoin, you can choose whatever altcoin you want. It could be Tezos, it could be VeChain, it could be Atom, it could be whatever, name your altcoin, right? Maybe, figure out what altcoin it is. It could be that altcoin. And then let's take a look at VeChain, because this is another one, right? If we take a look at VeChain against Ethereum, as we just showed, this one also tends to move in a manner against Ethereum, where it has these local tops, right? Here's the local top, and this one was the same one. Okay, we also have these bottoms that tend to be in the same region. Guess where we're headed, right? We're heading. It looks like we're heading down in the short term. And so what kind of situation could we take advantage of this on, right? So we have Bitcoin that we focus on accumulating when Bitcoin is testing the 20-week. We focus on Bitcoin when Bitcoin volatility is high, whether it's to the downside or the upside. I stop buying Bitcoin once the risk level gets above 0.5. Focus on other stuff. Ethereum is a decent one to look at, considering the macroscopic Ethereum Bitcoin valuation trends and the typical trend we see within the Q4 to Q1 movement of the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio. So this is a key trend that we like to take advantage of. We have Link, which Link is, it's like the poster child of swing trading between these altcoins. Between, say, Bitcoin and Link. It's like, how could you ask for anything better, right? How could you ask for anything better? And we took advantage of this. If you followed this channel during this pump of Link, I was taking profits up here, and this can all be backed up on the premium list. We talked about this on the premium list a lot. Again, into the cryptoverse.com, we talked about this on the premium list, taking profits, because we're at our peak here, most likely. The Link Bitcoin peak registered at 1.00 here, which is also what it registered over here, and one other time back over here. It just kind of it gets cut off a little bit because of the or this is the weekly time frame, not the daily time frame. So it's done it 3 times where the Link Bitcoin risk hit between 0.9 and 1, and all 3 times that was the local top, and we took advantage of this. So 3 key coins, 3 key trends: Bitcoin, Ethereum, Link. Bell, if you will. Add in ADA for that last trend, that last type of trend that we want, that move against Ethereum that can give you that token to take profits too. So imagine a pump of Ethereum. Okay, imagine a pump of Ethereum. I don't know if it's going to happen in the short term. I cannot tell you what's going to happen in the short term. If you want my opinion on what's happening in the short term, I don't know. Don't know. But if Ethereum pumps against Bitcoin over the next few weeks, right? This is a weekly time frame. I know you guys like to look at the 4-hour chart. We don't look at that here very often. Over the weekly time frame, if this continues down, okay, and Ethereum against Bitcoin moves up, and Ethereum against USD moves up, something like that, you're going to want to take profits. Well, not financial advice. Maybe you want to sit on it. I'm going to want to take profits. Where do you take profits to? Do you take it to Bitcoin? Well, it depends on what Bitcoin's doing. I mean, if Bitcoin's at $17,000, I probably am not going to want to be purchasing a lot of Bitcoin at that price. And we had plenty of time to get Bitcoin below 10K. We had, years to do it. So it doesn't mean that I'm never going to purchase Bitcoin above 10K. I'm sure I will as long as the risk level allows for it. But, I mean, the idea of, like, say, purchasing Bitcoin when it's up like 50% in a month just seems a little bit absurd, right? I mean, maybe 15K is an okay future price point to buy Bitcoin. But when it's up 50% in a month, it sure does give me pause. I don't know if it gives you guys pause, but it gives me pause. If we were to see Bitcoin go sideways for the next like year or something at 15K, then sure, let's buy Bitcoin. I would buy Bitcoin at 15K. But at this point, it just seems like too overblown to be purchasing it. So if the Ethereum-Bitcoin ratio pumps, and it pumps on the back of Ethereum going up, not Bitcoin going down, then you're going to say, okay, well, Ethereum's going up. Where do I put this money, right? I mean, if I want to maintain exposure to the cryptocurrency market, our asset class, I don't necessarily want to take profits to USD, which, by the way, USD is not doing well. Let me just, like, for 2 seconds, if you guys can give me 2 seconds to just briefly segue to the. Whew, man, I saved the stream. I think I was about like 10 seconds from losing the stream, and then I would have gone to bed. Don't worry, guys, we're back. I caught it. Sometimes I don't look at the screen and realize that it dropped out, and then the stream just finishes, but I caught it in time. So yeah, you see what happens when we leave the cryptoverse? Like, you see what happens? This is what I have to deal with when we leave the cryptoverse. Like, the whole thing just comes crashing down. But if you look at the dollar, you can see that, I mean, this is a pretty nasty trend. So think about buying USD, right? You typically want to buy USD in a trend like that? Probably not. It's going to turn around at some point. I just don't know where that's going to be. Let's jump back to the cryptoverse. Let's try to find another black hole to find us back into the cryptoverse. So that leaves you with, Bitcoin and Ethereum. If Ethereum pumps against Bitcoin and the Bitcoin risk is too high and the Ethereum risk is too high, where do you put the money? Do you put it in USD? Do you put it in traditional markets? Traditional markets are also getting a little bit overheated, with the S&P getting near $3,500, $3,600, and the risk on that is getting really high as well. Do you want to put it in Link? Well, you could. The Link Bitcoin risk is fairly low, but at the same time, by the time Ethereum pumps against Bitcoin, maybe Link will also pump against Ethereum. Because if you look at the Link Bitcoin valuation, we're kind of at our typical bottom. I mean, it could go lower, but it might not. If this rallies with Ethereum, and we also know that this tends to be the low of Link against Ethereum. So if Link rallies against Ethereum and Link rallies against Bitcoin, then when Ethereum rallies, do you want to put it in Bitcoin? Well, not if the Bitcoin risk is high. Do you want to put it in USD? Probably not. If USD is trending down, why would you want to buy an asset? Don't catch a falling knife. Do you want to put it in Link? Well, I don't know if you want to put it in Link. I mean, it depends on if Link pumps in the meantime. If Link does not pump with respect to Ethereum in the meantime, and Ethereum pumps, then you could put that money of Ethereum back into Chainlink. However, imagine a world where Link pumps against Ethereum and Link pumps against Bitcoin and Ethereum pumps against Bitcoin. Where does that leave you if you don't want to put it into Forex and you don't want to put it in traditional markets? Well, it brings us to our last primary option within the cryptoverse, and that would be an altcoin. And one of those altcoins could be ADA. If it's at the lower part of, if we see this type of trend down, let's talk about lengthening cycles, right? Something like that, maybe. I'll leave it to you guys. Leave it to your imagination to envision that. But it could leave us with a timely opportunity to purchase an altcoin. It could be ADA, maybe you want to do it on a different altcoin. If Ethereum's pumping against Bitcoin and Ethereum's pumping against USD, and altcoins are not keeping up with Ethereum or Bitcoin, and VeChain comes back down to the lower part, maybe this gets a good opportunity to pick that one up. I don't know. I mean, it's a possibility, of course. And you could say the same thing about a lot of other altcoins. Again, it's not that these other altcoins are worthless. It's just that they tend, as we showed earlier in the stream, they tend to have the same type of pattern against Ethereum. When Bitcoin volatility is high, Ethereum's going to have a hard time keeping up, and therefore it's sure as hell going to be hard for altcoins to keep up. Doesn't apply to all altcoins. There's some altcoins out there that are doing very well against Bitcoin and Ethereum right now. The point again is I try to focus on these 4 coins because they have very distinct trends against one another, right? Bitcoin and Ethereum is very different looking than Bitcoin and Link, than Link and Ethereum. If those 3 are overheated, it maybe leaves you with an altcoin. Doesn't mean you need 10 altcoins because they tend to have the same trend against Ethereum. But if you want to have one, then it can help give you that extra, that final trend that you need to take advantage of, right? So you could, if you sell some Ethereum, you could sell it to an altcoin, and if you see that rally, right? I mean, let's just imagine it goes out, perfectly. So imagine exactly what we want to happen happens, which I don't know if it will or not. We're gonna be here every step of the way to see if it does. But if Bitcoin volatility reduces and starts going sideways, and Ethereum starts going up, and the Ethereum-bitcoin ratio turns around and makes a nice Q1 move like it always has, and the risks on everything are very high, it leaves you with, okay, well, where the hell do I put this money? You could sell some of it to an altcoin, and it could be ADA, it could be VeChain, it could be maybe you take a stroll down CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko and figure out one that you want to purchase. But this is just an idea, right? I mean, this is not financial advice. You guys can do whatever the hell you want. But I'm just trying to give you ideas of how I see the market and how I see these trends playing out. Let's be a little bit more pragmatic with our approach. Don't just look at things in terms of their USD valuation. It's important to look at things in terms of their valuation against, say, Bitcoin and their valuation against Ethereum, because there's no way you can justify having 100 different altcoins if they're constantly bleeding value against Bitcoin and Ethereum. And if you do have 100 different altcoins, then I would encourage you to look at their short term over the last 6 months. Look at their trend against Ethereum. Like, what have they been doing? Are they down 60% like most of the ones we've looked at on this stream? Or are they doing quite well? Some of them are doing okay, right? There are some out there that are doing okay, and that's different. But most of them are not. Most of them look something like this, right? Where they're bleeding against Ethereum because Bitcoin volatility is high and Ethereum can't keep up with Bitcoin and altcoins can't keep up with Ethereum. So this brings us to the 4 Bella, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Link, and ADA. If you want, it can be Bitcoin, Ethereum, Link, and an altcoin, whatever you want. Link's the king of altcoins, in my opinion. But if you want it to be, instead of ADA, if you want it to be, Tezos, VeChain, Cosmos. I know there's a lot of other popular ones out there. You can pick one of those. Just figure out what the trend is against Ethereum. And for me, it's all about these swing trades back and forth. And again, do I sell everything when I make a trade? No, it's a token amount. I scale it linearly based on the risk levels, the linear risk schedule according to moderate risk tolerance approach. I know I've been rambling a little bit. I'm sure some of you guys are getting bored of this ramble, but I just wanted to kind of tell you, I talk about Bitcoin, Ethereum, Link, and ADA a lot. Why? Well, it's these 4 trends that are the reason. So if it's not abundantly clear before, hopefully it's abundantly clear now. So yeah, if you guys did like that rant, then please subscribe to the channel. Give the video a thumbs up, and you can even turn on notifications to get notified of future videos. So yeah, make sure you give the video a thumbs up. We're not even at 300 likes. I feel like we're just playing in the sandbox here. We have 704 people watching and not even 300 likes. Our like to viewer value, or our like to viewer ratio is pretty low. Oh, and by the way, yeah, thank you for reminding me, Milton. Polkadot is the last one, right? I also am a fan of Polkadot. So it's Bella, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Link, and ADA. Also, I think Polkadot has a bright future ahead. I'm not trading it though. I'm just accumulating it. I have no intention on trading it. Every market cycle, there tends to be one or two coins that come out at a really great time during the market cycle at the beginning of a bull run, and the sky is the limit for them to some degree because they don't have any of these like emotional barriers to various price levels, whether it be the prior all-time high or whatever it is. I think it's worth the risk to take on a very small percentage of your portfolio in a new coin. Ethereum was a new coin last market cycle, to give you an idea. For me, I'm focusing on Polkadot, and again, there's other coins, right? I mean, what I say is not, the word that you have to follow, right? And there's plenty of other new coins that you could pick. I'm picking Polkadot. It's got like 1/10 the market cap of Ethereum, and I think it has a lot of potential this market cycle. I think it has a role to play, and we'll follow that one as well. But again, there's just not a lot of data on it at this point. Okay, sorry. Let me. I've definitely missed uh, yeah, the token XRP request, right? We talked about XRP like in every stream. It hasn't changed. Um, it's the same downtrend against Bitcoin until Bitcoin gets to the prior all-time high. So just I would think about it like that. So someone says, any thoughts on taxes when you frequently swap coins? It depends on what you mean by frequently. I mean, these aren't like daily trades, right? A lot of times they're not even weekly trades. Another idea, as we mentioned before, is some of these trades you could theoretically do within the confines of an IRA if you have exposure to like Bitcoin and Ethereum within the confines of an IRA, which are tax free. And you can do this through various mediums, and we're not going to go into it now, but there are ways you can make trades, crypto, like Bitcoin and Ethereum within the confines of an IRA tax free. It's not exactly Bitcoin, right? It would be something that tracks Bitcoin, supposedly speaking. But that's just to give you one idea. And there's some countries where crypto to crypto trades are not taxed. So generally, I don't talk about too much on taxes because it really depends on where you live. It depends on your income level. It also depends on if you've been holding for short term or long term in terms of capital gains. So there's a lot of variables there. It depends on a lot of factors. So you have to kind of figure that out for yourself. You have to figure out if is it worth it or not. And if you look at this type of trend and you say, you know what, I recognize that this trend tends to repeat, or I recognize that this trend tends to repeat. But if you think, you know what, it's just not worth the tax implication, then that's fine, right? Just go with that and focus on more of an accumulation strategy rather than say like a constantly buying back and forth. And this is another key thing you can do, right? So imagine you're that person. You don't want to trade every 3 weeks or every 6 weeks or every 2 months. You want to trade, you want to sell once every 2 or 3 years. One thing you could do is you could be, let's say you want to accumulate link. You could say just accumulate it on this band is one example. Accumulate it on this band, and then when it's up here, you're just not buying it because you recognize it's too overbought in the short term. Same thing with Bitcoin, same thing with Ethereum. You could use this analysis, and the same thing goes with say like ADA Ethereum. If you have a certain amount of money to invest in the market and you're like, okay, do I put it into Ethereum or do I put it into ADA? Well, if ADA's at here at the top of its trend against Ethereum, then you might want to put it into Ethereum because this is probably coming back down. But if it's at the bottom of the trend, then maybe you want to put it into ADA because there's a good chance this is going to turn around. So I hope that answers your question. So you can use this analysis not just in the manner of, say, trading, but you can use it to figure out which coins do you want to focus on purchasing this week or this month. And this way, like just taking a step back from the 1 hour chart and looking at the macroscopic view can help you figure out, okay, do I want to focus on Bitcoin right now? What's Bitcoin doing? Is it near the 20 week? Probably want to focus on Bitcoin. Is Bitcoin volatility low or high? Probably want to focus on Bitcoin. Is Ethereum, is the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio pretty low? Is it near, has it come down? Maybe you want to focus on Ethereum instead of Bitcoin. When Ethereum's pumping against Bitcoin, maybe you focus on buying Bitcoin back. So this is just a general way that you can change your portfolio percentages without actually making trades. You just in your weekly DCA or your monthly DCA, you just pick up the coin that you try to identify the coin that tends to be kind of out at its short term end, right? I mean, like if it's pumping, 100% above this band, you probably don't want to be accumulating it, right? It might make more sense to accumulate something else, because a lot of times when that happens, it does trend back down in the short term. But just to give you an idea. So I hope that answered the question in an adequate manner. The tax implication, you have to figure out, is it worth it for you or not? And I can't answer that question. Someone said, we're gonna, hopefully the stream doesn't cut out again. We're gonna briefly segue, and I mean very briefly segue to the precious metal verse. Someone asked about gold and silver. Generally over the macro scale, the ratio is you can see it's way up here. So gold over silver. So I would expect, personally speaking, over the next half decade or more, for silver to go up against Bitcoin. I would expect silver to go up against Bitcoin over the next several years. Of course, there can be a lot of short-term pumps, but I would expect this to generally trend back down. But we'll see what happens, right? Another one I like to show on the channel, a lot of people don't know about it, Palladium has a really nice trend that I've talked about a lot on the channel before. So this is a pretty nice trend, Palladium. So, I mean, you can see since 2015, it's up 400%, which is pretty good, generally speaking. But okay, back to the cryptoverse. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you're new. Give the video a thumbs up. We're almost at 400 likes. And again, I will remind you that if you want access to premium content, if you like what I'm talking about here and want access to more of this type of content, you can get it at intothecryptoverse.com. You get weekly premium reports, weekly videos, private Telegram alert channel, some of the trading view indicators, and a risk dashboard, which is what I use to trade. So check it out. If you scroll down, you can pay with crypto for 12 months and get a 15% discount. With that said, subscribe, give the video a thumbs up. Let me know if you guys have any questions. We'll try to get through some more questions. Sorry, did I say silver going up against Bitcoin? Sorry, I meant silver going up against gold. I meant silver and gold. I didn't mean that silver will go up against Bitcoin. I would be shocked if silver went up against Bitcoin. What will be the market cycle's total market cap? Can we hit 1 trillion by end of 2022? I think the total market cap of the crypto asset class will probably reach around 10 trillion plus or minus a few trillion, right? I can't tell you exactly where it's going to be. It could be 7 trillion, maybe 13 trillion, maybe 6 trillion. I don't know, but as I've said before, we all go to sleep at night as we slowly drift off into our slumber, just thinking, what's a few trillion among friends? So we don't know exactly where it's going to be, but this is generally where I think it'll be. Apparently someone disliked my video. Someone's wishing bad fortune to them. As an investor in cryptocurrency, do you remember any mistakes you made? Yeah, of course. Um, of course. I mean, we all make mistakes, right? I mean, I'm not. We're all human. Um, I would say, I mean, probably the most notable one was, I mean, I learned about Bitcoin not in 2010 and 2011, and I did not invest at this point. I mean, I was an undergrad student majoring in mathematics. I took a cryptography course. It led me to Bitcoin. I saw this happen, which was crazy, and I invested in it. But when it got up here, I wasn't really taking profits like I should be, right? I just wasn't. And I mean, what happened next. So then I was like, okay, like I saw what happened here. Then I got into the market. I made a fool of myself up here for not recognizing, that it's good to take profits. And then I tried to correct that during this cycle, which I think I did. And now we're just, we're going through the next cycle, and here we have the YouTube channel and trying to talk to other people about it, right? It's not all just random, right? There is a method, of course, to the madness, right? There's a method to the madness. And it looks something like that, right? I mean, it looks something like that. Whew. I saved the stream again. No, I saved it. I'm sure we're going to lose like 30 viewers, but I saved the stream. So I think we can write that off as a win. Why don't I hold XRP? I'm tired of talking about it. I'm just look at the XRP Bitcoin chart and look historically when XRP pumps. It pumps when Bitcoin usually gets back to the all-time high, not a moment before, really. When am I moving to Puerto Rico? I don't have any immediate plans. What is the probability that it hits the upper? I think there's a good chance it hits the upper regression band, right? I mean, I think that's the whole point, right? I think there's a good chance it goes there. Seppa says I'm grumpy today. Well, it is what it is, If the Bitcoin dominance drops below 50%, does that make the system insolvent? It dropped below 50% last market cycle at the peak. I mean, I don't know what you mean. What are some mental habits? Basically, I think some mental habits that I formed that try to help me help me be better are just kind of sticking to the numbers, right? Coming up with a plan and sticking to it, not falling for the it's going to be different this time mentality. Kind of like, if ADA pumps against Ethereum again, like recognizing that this would probably be the local top of ADA against Ethereum and not always thinking this time is different, right? Link Bitcoin, recognizing that these pumps, it's probably going to be pretty systematic each time. I mean, each measured one can be slightly higher or lower, but it's generally the same type of thing. So I think just coming up with approach and sticking to a systematic plan is the best. Anytime you go based off your gut, it can work out, but To me, I feel like just having a strategy is better. I do have a full-time job. I work in computational material science. My PhD is in nuclear engineering, so I'm still working full-time. I don't think Bitcoin's going to make it to 250,000 this market cycle. I know a lot of people are hoping for that because of some other popular theories. I really don't think that that's going to happen. I mean, you can look at the BLX, right, and see the general, low to high, low to peak, and you can see it's reducing each time. The last one was like 10,000% or so. I mean, it's 10,000% would be, I think, pretty ridiculous from this point. And these aren't even the best drawn. I mean, if I actually fix this and actually draw it down to the bottom, I mean, so here it is all the way down to the bottom of the wick. So this was like 100,000%, then 50,000%, then 10,000%. I mean, for Bitcoin to go to 250K from the bottom, you're talking way up here. I don't see it. I don't see that happening. I feel like it would be not a big enough drop, and it would also significantly go above this regression band, which, I mean, of course, it's an imaginary line. It can go above it, but I just think it wouldn't really match what the data is suggesting would happen. Anything's possible, right? Anything's possible, but... I'm not. Okay, so this is a good question. Do you not believe inflation is increasing? I mean, obviously, we have inflation, right? I mean, USD is being devalued, but at the end of the day, I'm not like a doomsdayer like you'll find on a lot of other channels, like sensationalists, like, oh, USD is going to become worthless. Like, I don't think any of that. I'm more pragmatic, and like, I'm not going to be a sensationalist like that and think that, because there's other things that contract when money's printed, that it makes it so that the money supply doesn't increase as much as the Fed would necessarily like it to, because there's just other things that tend to contract during phases of printing a lot of money. So, and obviously right now a lot of people aren't even spending their money, so you could argue that there's periods of deflation as well where people just don't aren't spending money and whatnot. So again, Bitcoin's. I mean, I feel like it's a long tangent to go off, but I don't think that it's going to be as bad as a lot of people think, right? I think that a lot of people operate on like recency bias, like the financial crisis, and thinking that things just kind of have to come crashing down like they have before. But in reality, this doesn't generally happen, and I think 2008 was an exception. And yeah, I mean, I as I said before, right, in March when stocks were crashing, we made a video saying this is a great time to buy stocks. Not that it's financial advice, but historically speaking, this is a great time to buy stocks. And it was, right? I mean, it turned around, and now they've rallied to new all-time highs because we don't go with the sensationalist BS, and we stick to the numbers, right? And you stick to the numbers, I feel like works out better. I see the comments all the time, like, oh, get your head out of the charts. Look at what's going on in the world. Read the news. Like, look at all the institutional investors. At the end of the day, for Bitcoin to go from 10K to 100K, I would argue we needed institutional investors. It's not like, oh, the institutional investors changed the game. It's just that the amount of volume that we need to get Bitcoin to go to 100K it was kind of understood that we needed to get bigger and bigger money. It's a lot harder to move Bitcoin from 10K to 100K than it is to move it from 1K to 10K. So this money coming in doesn't change the game, in my opinion. It's just part of the same game we're playing, to be completely honest. Yeah, I mean, like maybe maybe this market cycle will be remembered as like you know, the market cycle of institutional money. I mean, so this last one was ICOs. Maybe this one will be the you know, we'll remember it as like institutional money and like decentralized finance. Maybe a market cycle after that, it'll be different. I mean, maybe there'll be more institutional money. Maybe we'll start to see governments or, you know, other more institutional money coming in. Each market cycle is slightly different, and the idea that, to me, the idea that because this is happening, it's going to change it. No, it's the same path, right? I mean, it's the same, like, you know, over here, no one knows about it. Over here, like, or over here, basically, it's just like the diehard cryptography people know about it. In this cycle, you have a little bit more riskier investors. Here, you have people that don't have their head, you know, maybe it's getting a little bit too crude, but here you have people that are you know, are taking note. You have more retail coming into the market. It propels it up to this level. Maybe the next market cycle is you have institutional investors that, you know, that take it up to the next level. Maybe after that you have you know, I mean, you're gonna have continuing to have institutional investors, maybe some bigger players get into it as well. So I mean, like, it's not that to me it's not changing it, right? It's just that this was always what was going to happen, because each cycle there's going to be more and more publicity for Bitcoin, and there's going to be more and more people looking into Bitcoin. Institutional investors are just part of it. They're part of the volume needed to take Bitcoin to 100K. You know, it's just part of the game, right? To get each order of magnitude increase is harder. You need exponentially more volume. Institutional investors will help us get to that volume. Okay, Brian, you've asked the same question about 20 times about insolvency of Bitcoin if dominance is below 50%. I already answered you. You don't need to keep asking the same question. Brian, last chance, man. If you ask it one more time, you're gone. You guys don't have to spam the same question every 10 seconds. Like, just ask it every minute, and eventually, hopefully, I'll see it. Make sure you guys subscribe. Give the video a thumbs up. I often troll you guys with what do you guys think my middle initial is, if my first initial is a B and my last initial is a C. Sorry, there's a lot of questions coming in. I already talked about ADA. Yeah, I did talk about ADA. Looking at the past cycle, wouldn't it be fair to compare the 20-week moving averages before Bitcoin breaks its previous all-time high? Yeah, we already did that. We did that in the beginning of the video. I mean, I think the peak, I think, as I've said before, I think the peak, the earliest I could see the peak happening would be the end of 2022. I've often contended that I could see it Q4 of 2022 to Q2 of 2024. This is the general time frame I see the peak. I don't see it next year. I don't see the peak of Bitcoin being in 2021. I just don't. We already talked about VeChain as well. I'm actually going to make a video on I already made a video on it. I'm going to post it soon. But I thought you guys, since we're on stream, maybe I'll just quickly show it. Have you guys heard of Benford's law? It's the idea that the first the first number of like in a data series is more likely to be 1, and then that's more, and then less likely to be 2, which is less likely to be 3. So if you're just taking if you're just putting numbers in a hat and numbering them from say 1 to 100,000, you can see the probability that you would pick a number that starts with a 1 increases to as much as 58% at this local peak here. Obviously, it starts at 100% because if you have one number in the hat and you draw one number out, it has to start with a 1. But you can see that this is what the 1 probability looks like. Here would be 2, 3, and 9. And if you look at this is what it should be if it's just like pulling a number out of the hat from say 1 to 9. But we're not doing that with the price of Bitcoin. This is what actually the price of Bitcoin is. So if you were to put all the prices of Bitcoin into a hat and draw one randomly, the chances that you draw one that start with a 1 is around 22 to 23%. It's just an interesting thing, I thought, and the next highest one is a 2 at around 13%. So it just kind of shows you how prices tend to cluster around values that start with a 1. Meaning that, we're probably going to spend a lot more time between, say, 10,000 and 19,999 than we will between 20,000 and 30,000. That's the general, that's one way to think about it too. Did you guys like that? I wasn't sure if people would actually like that on the channel, like Benford's Law, looking at Bitcoin. I thought it might be hit or miss. If you guys want me to just pull it up for a second, you can see it. So this is where it is. And oh, by the way, I misspoke here, but here's because we're talking about 1/9, because there's 9 numbers, in case you're a math nerd like me, did you know that, and I've said this before on the stream, did you know that 0.999 repeating forever is identically equal to 1? It doesn't round to 1, it is 1. There's a proof that you can use to show it, but if you just think about it more pragmatically, we know 1/9 is 0.111 repeating forever, 2/9 is 0.222 repeating forever, 9/9 would therefore be 0.999 repeating forever, but 9/9 is 1. There's also a proof that actually mathematically goes through why this is true, but I thought you guys might find it interesting. I don't really follow. I used to follow some other crypto channels, but I don't really follow them anymore. I don't even know who's all making videos anymore. I used to follow them, but I just don't have time. I do watch. Part of the reason I don't watch them, it's not because they're not good. It's just because I want to focus on. I feel like if I watch someone else explain something, if it's numerical in any way, it might be hard for me to envision that chart in any other way, and I want to just visualize it in my own manner. There are some other channels that I've mentioned that I follow that they're not crypto. I used to follow some crypto channels, but the main ones that I follow now are I'm sure you guys have heard of them, 3 Blue 1 Brown. So if you guys like math, check out 3 Blue 1 Brown. There's also another guy, he's like an engineer, and he works on these cool things in his basement. It's called Stuff Made Here. I think you guys might like it. He made a basketball hoop, so where you shoot the basketball and it's hard to miss because the hoop calculates the trajectory of the basketball and makes sure that it goes through the hoop. So it's kind of hard to you gotta try to you would have to try hard to miss. These are just some interesting stuff. See, the problem that I have with YouTubers that just put out random numbers for what they think a price is going to go, they do it to get the clicks. If they actually show the evidence behind it, fine. But most people just like throw a number out there because that's what's going to get the clicks. Okay, so you got to be careful about this. Like, why are they putting the number out there? Do they show in any way why they think it's going to go there, or are they just putting it out there because it's a nice, pretty number, right? So you have to consider this. When is all-time high for subscribers expected? Hopefully I don't hit an all. I mean, like I'm just pretty much systematically trending upwards. Hopefully I don't go to a peak and then come back down. Bernoulli, I'm happy you like the channel. Do I think Bitcoin will overflow gold's market cap? Probably not this market cycle, to be honest. I could see like a $500,000 Bitcoin next market cycle, but not this one. Huh. Andrew says he has a question. When moon? You know, the nice thing about the moon is if you get there, the gravity on the moon is a lot less than the Earth. It's like 1/6 the Earth's gravity. So if you want to get to Mars, it's better to launch off the moon because there's a lot less gravity from there. Does my channel's growth correlate with Bitcoin's price? Yes, but it goes up. The number of subscribers go up when Bitcoin is just volatile. It could be up or down. It's when Bitcoin moves sideways that the number of subscribers kind of goes flat or barely goes up. I'm not going to tokenize the channel. There's enough useless altcoins out there on the market. If you paid for Patreon and the website, can you get a refund? I mean, yeah, you don't need to sign up for both. They're the same thing. Just email me. You can go to contact me on my website. Guys, this chart here is not what I think is going to happen. We were just talking about a few different scenarios earlier. So yeah, we'll have a risk metric for DOT whenever there's more data available. I already talked about the total market cap. I actually have looked at the derivative of the weekly moving averages. If you go to my channel and look at and you just type in keyword like derivative, I do look at like I don't know if I did it of the 20 week, but I know I did it of like the 50. I think I did it of like the 50-week moving average and the 100-week moving average. I've been avoiding talking about Uniswap. I've been avoided. I mean, Uniswap is a coin where I mean, I have no idea what's going to do, but I think it'll start pumping whenever altcoins start pumping again. Uh, just as this is what I've said before. I think that when altcoins start going up, Uniswap will probably start pumping with them. Alright guys, I think I'm going to wrap it up there. If you guys like the content, remember, subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up. If you definitely subscribe and turn on alerts if you want notifications of future videos. Remember, you can check out the premium list at intothecryptoverse.com. Yeah, this is a one-man show. And if you want access to the public Telegram channel, you can find that. I'll link it. I'll link it down below. If 4 more people join, we'll be at 7,500 members. So check it out. So subscribe, give the video a thumbs up. We're at 486 likes. I'm confident that we'll be at 500 in about 10 seconds. 489. I think we're about to hit 500. 490. 492. 501. There we go. Alright, so thanks for subscribing, giving me the video a thumbs up. I hope you guys enjoyed the rants and it was useful to you. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.